And it's a lovely good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It is really a pleasure to come here and speak to you and give you a quick rundown of the quantum switch methods, personal sessions, which we are launching at this time. It has been a combination of a lot of hard work over the last few weeks and a few sleepless nights, etc. But here we are, and this is our first offering where we can actually interact with people directly and help them to experience the quantum switch method for themselves. And over the last few weeks, we've become aware that a lot of people are very much stuck in where they are, and they don't really know which way forward or backwards. And it is quite a problem for so many of us, where we have now either exited lockdown or we're just waiting for the next one, and the uncertainty remains because life as we knew it in the past has basically changed. I don't want to call it a new normal because I think we have to create normal, but that's just my opinion. So what we're doing here tonight is to give you an idea, not an idea exactly, give you an exact way that the personal sessions will run. It is set up for the people who will participate for the maximum benefit, and we have worked to make sure that everything is perfect in the sense of delivering the value that we wanted to deliver. And the value that we want to deliver to you as a participant in such a session is your experience of exponential freedom. That is something that we really want to go for at this time, because a lot of people are still captured in where they are on the level of consciousness and the consciousness expression through them. Sometimes it's hard and it's difficult for them to understand, and they find it difficult to find a way forward. I know, there are many people emphasizing one piece or another. This model pulls everything together into one system, so that we can work with individuals. And also, if you are a leader, then we can work with you so that you can understand your people that work with you and your colleagues and your extended family and so on. And when we have a better understanding, we can participate better in making the future work for us all. That is the whole idea of quantum switch method and Sprudelo and everything. We're working on this whole expansion of human consciousness, and that is basically what we want to do. And we are doing that even to ourselves and with ourselves. I think the consciousness level is changing rapidly as we are developing and we are evolving very fast. And the manifestation of what we are putting in comes back very quickly now. And I think this is not just us, this is all over the world. When you listen to the teachers, they're all saying that the manifestation is rapid. So one must put that in mind, or have to keep that in mind when we do the quantum switch with the people. So if we can just go to the presentation here, I'll just run you through the whole process. When we start such a session, really the agenda is very clear, that our intent is clarity on where you are on the path. We don't want to tell you where you are, we want to show you where you are, so that you can then gain a good assessment of, okay, you at this position or that position, and of course you're always moving up and down and backwards and forwards, but your default station at this time is maybe I don't want to tell you where you are, but we'll find that we'll get clarity of where you are, because that will help us then to determine what to do next. It's very simple but extremely powerful. All they want to do is to remove as much distraction as possible, because you need to make connection with yourself at that time and be as little distracted as you can. And please be open and agree to receive whatever you are meant to receive. A lot of people have a problem receiving. And that's a huge problem for so many people. They have a problem receiving, and so there will be something, but they won't see it, they won't experience it, and the moment will be lost when they don't receive what they were meant to receive. They will usually receive it sometimes later then. But, when something is given, when a gift is given, a gift of understanding and a gift of insight and a change of consciousness at that time, then that change goes on into the future, and it remains, and sometimes we don't see it, but it's still there. And when we are ready to see, we see. Okay? Now, the other thing is there's no wrong or right in this process. There just is. Everything is the way it is because that's the way it is, and that's the way it can't be any different because of you look at all the decisions people make, all the lives we've been living, all of us all together, we're making decisions every day, and so this is our present is amalgamation of many other people's thinking, consciousness, thoughts, words, actions. So our lives are made up of all that whole soup, the human soup, I know they call it. So there's no right or wrong, and there's no comparisons between you and anybody else, because you are where you are, and we respect that, and we support that, and we appreciate the fact that you are the way you are, where you are, and that is good to understand, and it's good to accept that this is where we are. Doesn't mean you need to be grateful for where you are, because even if it's miserable, we don't sell that false gratitude model. Not having any comparisons with other people is important, because we're just working with you in your isolation, but also your connection with other people, because who you are and where you are on the expression of consciousness will connect to other people, just as how it works. So it depends on you, and the power is within you to make a change in the world like you can't believe. Okay. You are where you are, as I said, and that is okay. You are here because you are looking for answers. If you weren't looking for answers, you wouldn't even be here. So we realize that we don't. Our tribe is not people who have their whole life sorted out, and I don't think there's anybody like that. I have not met anyone like that. And even if we pretend to be the angels, there's still a lot of devil around. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are here for the answers. There are a few givens that we need to understand, and we need to just explore a little further. We are energy, and it makes us all part of the whole. You don't need to understand that, but that is how you will experience consciousness, and that's how you are experiencing consciousness at the moment, as a part of a whole. The whole world is with this COVID pandemic thing. Everybody is tuned into certain levels of consciousness, which is mostly driven by fear and uncertainty and humiliation and all those things. So it's the very lowest levels of consciousness. But what we want to help you do and facilitate is to lift that awareness and to lift that consciousness. And you do that when you understand that you are part of the whole. Life expresses itself through us according to the level of consciousness we are operating at this moment. So it's a long sentence, but what it means is we are tuned to a level of consciousness at the moment, an expression of consciousness. We exchange those words. We are tuned to an expression of consciousness. The whole of consciousness, from the highest to the lowest, or from the most amazing to the least amazing, that's all part of the whole. Everything that's bad and horrible and horrific is also expressing itself at the moment, as you can see in many places in the world, as well as the stuff that's the good, best in human experience. It's all here, and it's all expressing itself at the moment. I know we would like to judge that and say this is wrong and that's right, but that is how the whole consciousness works. It is all part of the same thing. Okay. All reality is unfolding already, as I said. We choose to participate in the process of expression at our levels of consciousness. If you are angry, take for instance for yourself, you get angry over something that happened, and your thoughts start racing, and you start building kind of rage. Your emotions start stirring, and suddenly the thoughts and the words that come out of your mouth, the thoughts that come into your head and out of your mouth is is quite scary. You know, you can scare yourself with this kind of thing that happens, and that is in the weirdest way to understand. That is normal for that level of consciousness. When you are living in fear and anger and humiliation, then your thinking, your words, your actions will all be geared toward that expression of consciousness. It's very difficult to own that idea, but that's exactly what's happening. And it's very sad to see terrible suffering, but it's also good to see where people are getting together and people are helping each other. We can occupy different levels of consciousness depending on the area of our lives. Now, people think, you know, if you are tuned to fear and anger and humiliation and all this, at least pride, you know, if you tune there in your work, then you are like that everywhere else. For some people, it's true, but for most others, really, we are living at different levels of consciousness depending on the area. You might have a lot of money, so you don't have a problem in that field. So your consciousness would be quite high. You know, you'd be accepting and understanding, and well, hopefully, if you're not greedy. But in the areas that your life is going well, your consciousness expression tends to be much higher. Okay, so we are multifaceted and multidimensional, so this is how we show up in the world. We have the power to call in a different level of expression, and then stream our consciousness will flow through us and expressing in our emotions, our thinkings, and our actions. You do have the power. I discovered something for myself the other day. You know, I was lying in bed and thinking, you know, all these terrible thoughts of, it's so difficult and it's so hard, and you don't have money and you don't have this, and, you know, you think about your own story and you tell yourself very nice stories, and then I practiced my own little trick of thought arrest and said, no, wait a minute, you know, this is nonsense that I just keep on regurgitating that stuff through my mind, because then more thoughts come and they bring friends, you see, and all those friends tell you all kinds of other stories which you don't really want to listen to, and the emphasis on the word story that we tell ourselves, it comes from that level of consciousness, that expression. Now, if you put yourself by your own will, you can put yourself at a higher level of expression, and then your thoughts would change and your body will relax, because it's not perceiving threat. It's not feeling that you are being threatened by something. You can relax because your subconscious mind doesn't understand real from fictional. A picture or a real house doesn't matter to your subconscious. Same thing for it. So, which is a good thing and a bad thing, and we'll get into the good thing and the bad thing later on with this kind of thing. So, one of the things that we will do with this process is to give you some tools that you can elevate your expression. In other words, go to a higher level of consciousness just by your thinking. It's usually called imagineering. So that's a whole body of work, but we will give you some little lessons, small lessons in imagineering, so that you can then get yourself into a different state. What happened to me actually was I started waking up, and I suddenly realized that I fell asleep. After my little exercise, I fell asleep, and I must have slept for hour and a half, maybe, I'm not sure. But I felt fresh and more at peace in that moment of waking up. So when your higher consciousness kicks in, when you expose your higher consciousness, or then you tend to relax, and your body can take a break, because your body takes a huge pounding when you're living in fear and unhappiness. Okay. Then I just want to quickly mention something that we will teach you how to do with your personal session, and it's about vitality. You have life-enhancing energies and life-diminishing energies. I talk about that quite often. So your thoughts and emotions add vitality. It's like a battery. Imagine a battery, and you're loading the battery with electricity. By life-enhancing energies, you load the battery, and by life-diminishing energies, thoughts, emotions, you decrease your vitality. So it's draining the battery then. And when you've drained your battery totally, then you're running on empty, and then you get into danger existentially. Okay, so just a quick look at some of the life-enhancing energies that we will talk about: the harmonious experiences, life plus emotions, optimism, trust, affirmation, joy, peace, reason, and things like patience, not toleration, patience, satisfaction, cheerfulness, enjoyment, delight, contentment, ecstasy, peace of mind, clarity of purpose. Just by saying those words, you pick up as from a higher expression of consciousness, because it is positive and it is life-enhancing. On the other end of the scale is the life-diminishing energies and the thoughts of emotion that decrease vitality. It drains the battery, okay? And those are things like irritation, annoyance, fury, indignation, temper, discontentment, anger, frustration, groveling, uh, being demeaned or demeaning, suffering distress, being dishonored, being belittled, and agitated. So you can just by the expression of the words, you can feel feel it in your body that it is a life energy diminishing. So the emphasis is of course to work with whatever diminishing energies there are and to transmute them. Transmute means to take them and change them to a higher level. It's the same amount of energy, or the same block of energy, if you want to call it that, and you change it from life diminishing to life enhancing. It is possible to do that. It takes a while and it takes some work, but you can do it. And then when it works, becomes automatic. It's quite powerful. Now here is the whole process. I'm not going to go through the entire process, but basically the 9 phases are the status quo, where you come from, the shaking, when your status quo starts falling apart, and life changes for you, and everything you thought was real becomes non-real. the bad diagnosis, the job you lose, the relationship that crashes, all those things causes shaking. And when the shaking takes place, then you have one of two options really. The first option is if you are strong enough in the sense of resilient enough to, and you have a clear vision, and you have your assets and your resources under control, you know what they are, how they work, and what they mean for you, then your shaking will maybe not be so bad. And on the other hand, you can miss the dip. Okay, you can make the cycle much more shallower, so that you don't go down to life at the bottom. Okay, so just mentioning these things, status quo, the shaking, the falling is when you lose your identity, you lose your foothold, you lose your values, you lose your assets, and sometimes you end up alone with no money, and that is it, where everything around you has fallen apart. That is falling, and then what happens is you hit the floor down in the valley of choice. The valley of choice is a place where you need to decide where you're going to go, sideways, downwards, or upwards. You usually don't get that decision right at the moment. At that time, you have to go, or not have to, you usually go through several dark nights of the soul where you question your existence. You don't understand why you're here, and why would a deity do this to you, kind of thing. So we go through the whole excuse and the whole grief system, so that we can get clarity, so we can understand where we are. You don't just feel miserable and there's no reason for it. There's quite a good reason for it, and it's all laid up and hidden and revealed, and is revealed in consciousness expression. The life at the bottom is quite something that we spend some time on, so that people can understand where they are, especially when we realize they are at the bottom. Because at the bottom, your life becomes smaller, your ego diminishes on the one hand, and your ego also stands up and starts building walls around you, so that you don't experience most of life. You can close yourself off to the degree that you actually live in one room or sit on your bed for 3 weeks. It does happen. Okay, so the idea is to understand where you are, and then the next part is the 4 phases upwards: is wake up, get up, stay up, and prosper. The waking up is to understand that there is a possibility. That's also a shift in consciousness, where we go into the area of courage, where we see life is actually possible. There are possibilities beyond the misery that we are suffering from. There are possibilities over and above what we think there aren't, and it's much easier when you end up in the wake up phase. It's not what people are talking about, the awakening and all that stuff. That's not not the same thing. The wake up is to realize there are possibilities. The get up really is to getting up and doing something about this. But the get up and the stay up thing, especially the get up part, needs to be connected to a vision, and it needs to be connected to something that you want to become, that you want to be, that you want to be in your life, the roles, your identity, and so on. All these things we have to re-engineer for you. And by the re-engineering, we also talk about imagineering, because you can be anything you imagine you want you to be. Okay, I will never be an astronaut, but so, tough. But everybody, there are certain things that you and I will not do ever. So, it's not that anything is possible. So there are certain constraints. And these constraints are good for us because we know where we fit in. Those constraints can also be false and imposed by someone else from an ego standpoint. Okay, the next part is stay up. Stay up is about resilience, and that's usually where people need the most support, is that they don't walk alone, and that they understand that staying up means to be resilient and hanging in there and do the thing. And also, what is very, very important is to control your thinking, and also to access the consciousness level that you need to, so that you can then perform at this different level of existence. So resilience is very important, and we have a system that we will build in there. After these one-on-ones, we will do Zooms at least once a week where we can support people. Okay, and then 9 is prosper. The last phase is prosper, and you know what that means. It's not just money. If you prosper, let me put it to you this way: when you occupy higher expressions of consciousness, your world opens up, and when your world opens up, you become aware of abundance. So then, and that abundance is not just money. It is health. It is relationships that come your way. It is people who come your way, opportunities that you see, all these thousands of different things that you can see from that level of consciousness. So the idea is to stay there, because then those things will come to you. If you go down back to the bottom at the lowest levels, then those things will come to you too. So the idea is really switch. And it is very powerful, and you will kick yourself that you have never experienced this, because it is there and it's available for everybody. Okay. What we want to, in the end, we want to have clarity of where you are, your current experience with money, your relationships, your future vision, your level of comfort, discomfort, your roles you have changed in the last year. Think about that. Your additional roles that you've taken on in the last year, and the roles you've left behind that gave you an identity. For many people, that was a job, and they had to change, or they've lost their job, or the business went under, and now they have to do something different. So it can become quite a difficult situation. But when we go through this quantum switch and the process and the personal session, you will come out with a few answers. Not you will have answers to everything on this on this page. Okay, and then the next step is what we do is help you and give you some idea about the internal environment, how we take control of that and take back our life in that sense. That's a very important part of the taking back your life, is starting to create your own internal environment through your thoughts, feelings, and your connection with other people. Very important. Your external environment, your physical environment, and the constraints thereof. So for some people, the physical environment they used to have a whole lot of luxury and whatever. Now they don't have it. So your physical environment is constrained, but it is not the end of the world, because you can work within that, and then as you work within the constraints start to weaken, and you become aware of other opportunities. If you make more money, of course, then solves a whole lot of problems. And then a very important question you need to ask yourself is, how do you wish to feel? And we will cover that extensively during the time, as how do you want to feel? We'll give you a few examples of how it works for you, and we'll get you to experience this resolution, I can call it. Remind yourself of your achievements. That's your rock star times. I'm not going to go into that now, but those are the times when you did well. You were thriving. You were enjoying life. You were doing well. Everything was working, and you could walk on clouds, and everything. That's not euphoria. That is where you're really in your rock star time. And of course, we don't always stay there. We fluctuate, but you can remember that time, and those times you can remember and go back to that level of consciousness, that expression of joy and confidence and feeling good about yourself, wanting to own your life in a way that is enhancing to yourself and to the people around you. You see your effect on other people when you start remembering your rock star times. People will say, "Oh, you've changed. Look like you've got more confidence these days," and so on. And that's the exact thing that happens. And then remind yourself of a thriving environment with other people, because life is about relationships and the quality of the relationships. When the quality is bad, your life is miserable. When the quality of those relationships are good, then life is, of course, much better, because every relationship is an exchange of energy. When we do it, when we understand how it works and we can control what we're doing, then life works that much better. Reminding yourself of your empowering connections, life enhancing relationships. You must have a few of them somewhere along the line. And sometimes it's people from the past, and you can't really connect with them anymore. If you then let's just remember, remind. It's a very interesting word, remind. It's reminding. Put it back in your mind, but put it back at a different level of consciousness, and you will see how your thinking is affected in a positive way. Okay, then we'll give you some exponential freedom exercises, which are powerful, and these things can really work well for you, and they will work if you work them. If you don't work them, then they won't work. So it's very, very simple. The first thing is to cultivate an awareness of everything that is good, even the small things in your life. So there is an awareness in that levels of consciousness, that expression of consciousness. There's an awareness of what's going on around you, and it will be dissatisfied or unhappy, life diminishing kind of experiences at that level. Even if you have a very good you have a very nice car, when you live in a very low expression of consciousness, then that your attitude towards the car might not be, one of gratitude. It's like, yeah, it's transport kind of thing, and we don't appreciate much at that level. That's just how it is. So think about things that you can appreciate: your warm bed, your hot shower, and your food slowly consumed. we we scoff and inhale our food, so, which is really not the best thing for your body. But also, when you sit and chew, then actually it helps you with retuning your consciousness. Okay. Then we cultivate an awareness of the gratitude of others towards you. When you go to the shop and the person at the shop is friendly and greets you and so on, then it makes a big difference in you. And it's actually quite, like someone said yesterday, I was watching a video where he says it's healing. When someone is friendly, it's healing to that person as well. It makes their life easier and makes their life better. The person who is sending out the prayer or the blessing and the thank you and the gratitude. So the person receiving the gratitude, and that's why you need to be open to receive, and the person giving the gratitude. Those are two connected people for that split second, but both people are benefiting from that. Look for the smiles and the cooperative people. They are there. We don't see them because we're not looking. We're looking for the people who are expressing the same kind of consciousness that we do. And if you are angry and sad and unhappy, and then you're going to find a whole lot of other people who are unhappy and sad. Okay. I see a very interesting thing, I must say. When you go in South Africa, you go to fuel station or the garage, we call it here, to get your gas, petrol, gasoline, whatever you call it. And here we still have people who man the pumps. They pump it for you. And I've seen a lot of them are just friendly, And some of the people that stop there for fuel are very rude, They are not nice people. And yet these guys are always smiling. And I just had the realization that these guys really are at the expression of consciousness of between for the team. As a team, they're always laughing and making jokes and so on at this particular place that we were. And you could see the friendliness and the way they treat you and the way that people treat them back. When someone is rude and so on, just the car next door, the man was quite rude, but the guy was just smiling and he just walked away. And he was sharing that consciousness with the other people that he's working with, which is at a friendly level, a higher expression. So that bad energy that was thrown at him from this other customer just dissolves in that. And that's why higher consciousness or higher expression of consciousness dissolves the lower ones. And that's something very powerful that you need to, that you will experience. You don't fight the dark, you just switch on the light. That's basically what you do. Okay, so and then how do you want to feel again? Remind yourself with emotion of what you want to feel like, where you want to feel it like, how it's going to be, the whole imagineering model that we will explain to you there. And then something that is very important for us at this time to remember that forgiveness is not for the other people, it's for you. As you are releasing that judgment, that energy that keeps you bound to a lower expression. When you forgive someone, you cut someone, you cut the cord, and the energetic cord, and that person's cord goes back to them, and the influence diminishes, sometimes very rapidly, depending on how well you are able to pivot. Okay, when you are one of the brave people, then you can use the Ho'oponopono, yeah. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. Why I am saying to you, the brave ones, is you can now sit and try and say that loud and see where you get stuck. I guarantee you're going to get stuck at one of those forwards. You won't get it out because we don't live like that. Okay, so I challenge you, go and try that. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. Those are the four phrases you say. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. When you start saying it and you're angry, you can't get the words out. It's very difficult. Your ego stops you from saying those words because it's not true for you. Okay? And then you use the technique that they teach you, how to get yourself to ascend, and transcend that anger to a higher level of consciousness where you can say, I love you without a problem and mean it and feel it. Okay? So that's just a very interesting bit in all this information. So that's the whole thing. I don't know how long it is, but that's the whole thing. And I want to thank you for sticking around if you're still around. And then if you, above and below, there's some buttons that you can push if you want to take part in this thing. And remember, it's not just for single people or family or for you yourself. Of course, it's for that. But also if you're a business leader, if you're a manager and you work with other people, it's good to understand where they are. Because then you can work your own process and make sure that your expression of consciousness towards them is different. Because then you will lift them up. That's the power of this work. Just by you being different, the people show up differently. It does work. So I thank you and I bless you. Thank you very much. Take it easy and I'll see you on the inside.